In early February 2026, a controversy erupted in Washington that most Americans might have missed in the daily news cycle. Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, stands accused of withholding a critical intelligence report from Congress. The report, originating from the National Security Agency, was allegedly delivered to the White House instead of being shared with congressional oversight committees as protocol would normally require. The accusation itself might sound technical. A report went to one building instead of another. But the implications of this decision and the pattern it represents may signal something far more consequential about how power is being exercised in the American system. To understand why this matters, we need to step back and look at how intelligence sharing is supposed to work. After Watergate, a framework was established and refined over decades. The executive branch manages intelligence operations. Congress exercises oversight through specialized committees. It's a careful balance. The president needs flexibility to act on sensitive information. Congress needs access to that same information to fulfill its constitutional role. When the system functions normally, classified briefings flow to relevant committees. Executive privilege gets invoked sparingly. Disputes get resolved through established channels. What we're seeing with the Gabbard controversy suggests that balance may be changing. The accusation centers on a specific choice. An NSA report, presumably containing information that Congress has statutory rights to review, was directed to the White House rather than shared with oversight committees. But the content of this report adds a critical layer to the controversy. According to reports that emerged shortly after the accusations, the intelligence document concerned a sensitive phone conversation intercepted by the NSA. The conversation involved individuals connected to a foreign government and a person close to President Trump. The discussion reportedly made references to Iran-related matters. The full details could not be confirmed because it remained unclear whether the allegations about the Trump associate were accurate. What happened next draws the most scrutiny. After being briefed on this intelligence, Gabbard reportedly took a paper copy directly to White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. One day after that meeting, she ordered the NSA not to publish the intelligence report and instead directed that the classified material be sent directly to her office. This detail transforms the controversy from an abstract procedural dispute into something far more concrete. The report was not about a distant geopolitical threat or routine signals intelligence. It involved intercepted communications between foreign actors and someone connected to the current administration, with Iran as part of the context. The decision to bypass Congress and deliver this information directly to the White House takes on different meaning when the intelligence potentially concerns the president's associates. Congressional oversight exists precisely for situations like this, where executive branch officials might face conflicts of interest in handling intelligence about their own colleagues or political allies. When that oversight is circumvented, the system designed to prevent abuse of intelligence for political purposes begins to break down. This is where the implications deepen. When the executive branch narrows the circle of who receives intelligence, it simultaneously narrows the circle of who can challenge executive decisions based on that intelligence. Congressional oversight depends on information access. Without it, oversight becomes performative rather than substantive. If an NSA report contains information about contacts between foreign governments and administration officials, Congress cannot fulfill its oversight role without seeing that report. The decision about who receives it and when becomes a decision about who gets to participate in accountability. The current situation reveals something about institutional trust that goes beyond this single report. Intelligence agencies depend on credibility with both political branches to function effectively. When Congress questions whether it's receiving complete information, that credibility begins to erode. When the Director of National Intelligence is accused of prioritizing White House access over congressional notification, especially regarding intelligence that touches the administration itself, the foundation weakens further. Future intelligence sharing becomes more contentious. Future oversight becomes more adversarial. The space for executive action without meaningful review expands. There's a legal dimension here that deserves attention. Congress has statutory rights to information under the National Security Act. The Gang of Eight, congressional leaders from both parties, is supposed to be briefed on the most sensitive intelligence operations. But the executive branch has argued that operational control includes information control. Courts generally avoid deep involvement in these disputes, treating them as political questions. This means precedent is set through institutional practice. What becomes routine now may become assumed authority later. If withholding reports from Congress becomes standard practice, especially when intelligence concerns the administration itself, future presidents inherit that precedent. The relationship between intelligence agencies and elected officials is never purely hierarchical. The NSA operates with significant autonomy and technical expertise that political appointees may not fully control. When a report from the NSA gets redirected, it raises questions about internal disagreements. Did the agency want Congress to see the report? Was the decision to withhold it made at the political level? Congressional access to intelligence serves as a check not only on the president but on agencies themselves. Reducing that access may shift power within the executive branch in ways that are difficult to track from outside. International observers are watching this dynamic with particular interest. American intelligence partnerships depend on trust that information will be protected but also accountable to democratic oversight. When that oversight appears compromised, allied intelligence services face difficult calculations about what to share. If Congress cannot reliably access intelligence from American agencies, allies may question whether their shared intelligence will receive appropriate oversight. This could affect cooperation on terrorism, cybersecurity, and geopolitical threats where information exchange is essential. The domestic implications extend beyond Washington. When oversight structures weaken, accountability diminishes across the entire national security apparatus. Intelligence operations influence law enforcement priorities and foreign policy decisions. If federal intelligence activities face reduced scrutiny, that can cascade through other institutions. The FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and military intelligence branches all operate within frameworks that assume congressional oversight exists as a functional constraint. When that constraint softens, institutional behavior may shift. There's also the question of public confidence. Most Americans will never see classified intelligence or participate in oversight hearings. But the legitimacy of intelligence agencies depends on a general belief that someone is watching, that checks exist, that power is not exercised arbitrarily. When news emerges that the Director of National Intelligence allegedly withheld a report from Congress, especially one concerning administration officials and foreign contacts, public perception changes. When the response frames congressional oversight as a security risk rather than a constitutional function, trust erodes further. Historical parallels offer guidance. The Church Committee investigations emerged after years of intelligence overreach that occurred because oversight mechanisms were weak. The reforms that followed created the framework we have today. But frameworks can atrophy if political will diminishes. The post-9/11 expansion showed how quickly norms shift when security concerns dominate. Some expansions were later curtailed, others remain normalized. What we're witnessing may be part of a longer arc in American governance. Executive power has expanded during every period of perceived national threat. Some of that expansion receded. Some became permanent through repetition. The Gabbard controversy, viewed in this context, represents a potential inflection point. If withholding intelligence from Congress becomes accepted practice, especially when it concerns the administration itself, it could normalize behaviors that future administrations inherit and extend. The question is whether the cumulative pattern is shifting how executive power operates outside public view. None of this is predetermined. Institutional relationships are constantly negotiated. Moments of tension can produce course corrections as easily as further consolidation. What makes this situation notable is not its outcome, which remains uncertain, but its direction. The trajectory suggests a widening gap between executive claims of authority and congressional capacity to verify those claims. This gap may close through compromise or political pressure, or it may continue to widen, establishing new norms around transparency and accountability. For now, analysts are watching closely, not because the answer is clear, but because the question is becoming more urgent.